Are you lost? Or are you looking for something? Walking around here, it's dangerous. This is not recommended for everybody. Kiddos can come along, but they're gonna only have more questions than answers. But that's part of this journey. Enter if you dare. My name is Dakota Frandsen, and this is Specialist of the Strange Radio Show, where we go into various topics of the unknown and bring them to light. And maybe, just maybe, we'll discover something new along the way. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You're not going to want to miss this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dakota Frandsen, Specialist of the Strange, and welcome back to a new episode. Today, I want to get into a slightly different episode. It's still paranormal related, but being that, it's getting close to Halloween, and some of y'all may want to try to go into ghost hunting. It's just kind of a fun Halloween activity, and you should. It can be a lot of fun. You may be able to find a lot of interesting stuff. But because of that alone, especially because of the craziness that is 2020, you and I need to discuss some ground rules. Don't give me that. This is stuff just to make sure you stay safe if you want to take up this hobby. Because there's a lot of you who look at shows like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, hell, even Supernatural, and think, oh yeah, this is cool, this is fun, yeah, let's do it, oh, what's so badass? It's perfectly fine to have a high opinion of yourself, but you don't want to do it so much that you potentially get yourself hurt, right? Yeah, I mean, this year alone has been freaking crazy. So, I want to discuss with y'all simple safety. Because, even though it is rare, even though it is unlikely, dealing with this type of thing, going out into the world, looking for things that go bump in the night, can be like handling a loaded gun. And if you're not careful with that loaded gun, you may shoot yourself. You may shoot somebody that means the world to you. And trust me, I know what I'm seeing here. I lost a friend a few years back. Hell, it was on my 21st birthday of all days. That she died from a shotgun blast to the face because the guy she was with was cleaning the gun and did not check to make sure it wasn't unloaded. So, like I said, I can control what you do, but I don't know, maybe some of you are like me, and you want to know the deep, dirty secrets, all the tips and tricks. You want to know actually how the environment is from someone who's actually out in the field, right? That makes sense. So that's what this episode's dedicated to. And there's a little bit of extra emphasis on certain things because of 2020. Because, yeah, now I'll admit that these episodes are filmed in advance. So, the some overall climate of the world could easily be changed by now between the time I'm filming, between the time this episode finally drops. Pending no technical difficulties, this episode should be dropping on early in the morning Mountain Time of September 11th. A moment of silence. This isn't about politics. Just in case we have some of you that like to bitch about every little America deserved it. No. This is about paying respect to the people that lost their lives that day and who have continued to lose their lives for several years due to complications from that day. So a moment of silence. And right. It is September 11th, 2020. Knock on wood that nothing bad happens today. It's 2020. I can't make any promises. But I'm going to go to commercial break real quick. And when we get back, we're going to jump right into it. And how this episode's going to be formatted is it's going to be addressing concerns during the process of finding a ghost hunt. Basically, we'll start from you sitting at home, to you hitting the road, to you on the case, to what happens afterwards. Sound like a plan? Alright. Time for the commercial break. You better not go away. Hey everyone, Dakota Frandsen here, specialist of the strange. I just wanted to come with you real quick about potentially doing your own podcast. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Maybe you got a lot of questions like, how do I record? How do I get my show into all these apps that are out there? How can I make money? There are probably several thousand other questions about getting this show off the ground that you have been formulating and communicating in your mind. And I'm here to tell you that there is a very simple answer to this. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your show. And best of all, it is 100% free. Get all the perks from the other guys without having to pay for subscription fees. And best of all, it is easy. And in fact, Anchor can match you up with sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast right now, which means you can get paid doing what you love. Isn't that the fucking dream, my friends? In fact, that's actually what I'm trying to do right now by reading this ad for you. It is amazing. It helps ease the process for guests, putting on music, whatever you want to do. So if you want to start your podcast, make some money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and several other fabulous people already using Anchor. That's Anchor FM/start. And I cannot wait to hear you on the air. Alright. Now that we got that penny or two in royalties, let's get on with the program. Now, there was a couple of things that came up that inspired me, to say the least, to record this episode. And I want to disclose that right now. It was, well, first one was an incident involving psychics trying to assist in a missing persons case that was happened here not too long ago. The other was a spiritual witchcraft type group saying they put together certification courses in order to allow people who want to go ghost hunting to be able to do so. Alright. Let's start off with these because they do start off as the at-home bits. Always be aware of psychics. Self-proclaimed psychics. Be aware. I'm not saying rule them out, because every now and then there's a legitimate one. But be 100% skeptical of them. And if they go to show a proven track record over time, then maybe you can take their word for it a bit more. But the situation, I call this, let me backtrack. I call situations like these the Brownberry principle. The Brownberry. Named after Sylvia Brown and Amanda Berry. For those of you who are not aware of this, Sylvia Brown was a proclaimed psychic medium who said that to Amanda Berry's mother that she was long gone. Absolutely showed no remorse. Complete bitch. You can find the clips online. And there was times where you can find clips where she just flat out refused any contradictions that the family would present in when talking about certain daughter's case. There's one where I can't remember the circumstances, but a young lady was shot to death in her home, and Sylvia Brown kept looking at the parents like, no, she choked to death. I'm sorry. You're full of crap. She's... Yeah, just look it up. I don't want to go too much into it because it aggravates me. So, the reason why I say this, psychic intuition, hunches like that are very real. Everybody possesses them. Every now and then, you get one person who is just a little too accurate. The case I talked about earlier where a psychic was called in to try to assist with a missing persons report. This family out of California came to Idaho to do some whitewater rafting, which isn't uncommon. However, something went wrong, and a gentleman went missing. And the friends and family members even reached out to the psychic. I never got her name, but tried to uncover try to get their help on what was going on. Because this family, they raised enough hell in order to get the state to lower water levels in order to try to help search efforts. And what a lot of these people don't realize is that we can't just lower it in one place. There's a whole chain reaction that has to go into place. They lowered it for a while. They said, we can't keep this low any longer. We got to move it back up. I'm sorry. Sure enough, when they let the water pressure back through, his body comes back up. The concerning bit about this is that this psychic said that he was going to be found on the rocks. They tried to say that he was still alive. He may have even tried to fake his own death. But he was going to be found by the river on the rocks. Hello? He went missing in the fucking Snake River in Idaho. It's nothing but rocks. That goes to prove my point. There was an article on the Coast Facebook page that popped up that reminded me of this, where a proclaimed medium was missing. The case was suspected of foul play. They firmly believe that she may have been murdered. Her close friend and her daughter both say, her 5-year-old daughter, this is what it gets me. Her 5-year-old daughter both said that her body would be found in a mine by a river in Colorado. in a mine by a river in Colorado. That doesn't exactly limit it the fuck down, you idiots. And I'm saying be careful of psychics because there are so many people that are just flat out stubborn and refuse to change their label because it makes them feel special. Now, psychic abilities, I will admit, have been known to run across my family. There's stories of my family members seemingly being able to tell the true future, I should say truth, yeah. The criminal history says otherwise. But seeming to be able to tell the future at a young age. When I was a little, when I was about 3 years old, I walked up to my stepmother and put my hand on her stomach and told her that my sister wasn't there. She went to the doctor the next day. Sure enough, that's how she found out she was pregnant. So I'm not saying that these things aren't real. I'm saying be very careful. I'm even skeptical and try to validate any intuitions that I get with evidence before I even try to present it because of these circumstances. If you need some help luring out the fakes, you can give me a call. It's not that hard. Another thing on that certification. There is absolutely no authority on how paranormal investigations are to be done. There's not. How can we? This is a field that is often widely discredited due to the lack of evidence mainstream science is able to produce. Though, honestly, based on some of the articles I've read, been about 10 or 20 years, we'll start seeing some progress in that area. But nevertheless, there is no authority on this. There is no laws on this. If anyone tries to offer up certification for ghost hunting, walk the other way. It's a scam. They likely have no clue what the hell they're talking about. And you don't need certifications in order to be able to do this type of thing. Unfortunately, this opens a lot of room for fraudulent parties to get involved because there is absolutely no, like I said, there's no authority on this. And fraudulent parties, potentially dangerous criminals, have tried to utilize ghost hunting teams as a way to get into people's homes, and the scary ones are the freaking pedophiles. Now, if you've had a criminal history, I'm not holding it against you. If you've cleaned up your act and you're trying to get your life together, alright? I'm not slamming on anybody that has that issue. It happens. People make mistakes, and I'm not one to fault people for mistakes they made, as long as they make the effort to correct them. And hopefully by the end of this broadcast, we can help you prevent some mistakes. Now, like I said, we are going to be discussing this in the likely chronological order of events that will take place when you decide to take on a ghost hunt. Say you want to get some of your buddies together and just go to a random spot that has rumors of ghosts, like an abandoned warehouse, things like that. Make sure you find out who the owner is first. Make sure that property is not condemned. You get necessary permits, permissions, things like that. Stay legal in all this. Otherwise, you can get in some serious criminal trouble for trespassing, possible vandalism. And there have been cases where people actually ended up dead because they walked into something they shouldn't have, trying to look for ghosts. One thing you can also do, a lot of jurisdictions have this option, is that you can call your non-emergency line and notify authorities that you're going to be doing these activities for a while, just in case someone calls you in as potentially suspicious. I've had to do that on a few cases myself. Shockingly, no one called us in, according to the dispatchers that helped us out, but it's still good to be prepared in those instances. Now, if you don't want to go through all the red tape, basically, another thing you can do is you can try to look up and see if there's any ghost hunting events near you. There's a lot of groups that post these things. First off, if you decide to go that route, go right ahead. It's probably the cheaper option as well. That way you can just bring your own, you can use recording apps on your phone, you can use the camera on your phone, or if you happen to have any of the equipment that you see in paranormal shows, you can just bring that along with you, things like that. Hell, you can even improvise sometimes. Before I got myself an actual little handheld spirit box, one trick I used to use if I wanted to conduct those sessions was take an old radio, tune it to the lowest frequency possible, where I heard nothing but white noise was coming through, and use it like a white noise generator, and that helped produce some interesting results. So you can pass it along if you want to. Now, of course, make sure you do some research on the group. Make sure they didn't pop up in any news articles about potentially getting busted for criminal activity. See, a lot of groups nowadays will try to promote themselves through social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, things like that. So make sure that they aren't doing anything dangerous, that there isn't anything uncomfortable that you may be uncomfortable with. Say, like, for example, I do believe this group was out of Florida. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but there was a group out of Florida who conducts their ghost hunts in their birthday suits. So, interesting little concept. I talked about it on one of my radio show appearances years ago. But, moving on. Now, you may be wondering, what kind of equipment do you need? Well, like I said, you can sometimes improvise with stuff that's lying around the house. You got a smartphone, you can just use the camera that's on there. You can use recording apps on that. As far as going in, editing audio and video and looking at all that, you can use a lot of video editing software that comes directly from the computer. There's also a lot of free software out there that's pretty good. Or if you want to spend a little money, that's up to you. I think there's easily a couple $1,000s worth of equipment that I've spent on, easily. And of course, make sure that your car is prepared. You can sometimes take trigger devices too, depending on the location, which brings me to my next point. No matter if you decide to go with your friends to a location on your own, or if you decide to attend a ghost hunting event, I highly, highly, highly recommend you do some research into the area. Know the turf you're going to be working. If you're going to be outdoors, make sure that you know where you're walking around. Don't mess around too much to where you can get lost. Take precautions if you need to, like emergency travel equipment. If you think you're going to be out for quite some time, my recommendation is, and I know a lot of guys who like to do a lot of camping and hiking or shit like that, get one of those specialized filter straws that you can just stick into any body of water and be able to drink, and it filters the water for you. Make sure you take necessary preparations. If you're not used to being out at night, take some food. sandwiches, chips and dip. There's been a couple of times where I've actually ordered pizza to a location. Just to help stay awake, keep my lips sharp. Also, just in case, be on the lookout for possible signs of criminal activity. Have there been any burglaries in the area? Violent crimes, situations like that. The last thing you need to do is to end up joining the ghost you're trying to hunt. Now, as far as when you actually go, make sure the group you decide to be with is trustworthy. And I'm not just talking about researching any ghost hunting teams or events that you put together, because like I said before, there have been some scam artists out there. Make sure you can trust the people you take with you, especially nowadays. You may decide to try to take your significant other as kind of a thrill date, and they may not have the best intentions for you and claim that you tried to assault them. Or ladies, be careful always be careful if a guy is trying to take you to a dark, creepy place. Okay, common sense here. Make sure you have protection on you. Even if it's someone you trust, just be careful, okay? Just in case you do run into some crazy homeless person. You gotta be careful of that too. Which brings me to another point. Make sure that people you take, if you decide to take people with you, stick with a buddy system. You're less likely to come under attack if you got someone with you. If you go alone, be extra prepared. A lot of these tips are simple common sense. And hell, you can even go online and go into Facebook groups or things like that and ask if other people's experience on things. Like, you sometimes see people asking about new restaurants or something. I've seen certain people ask for about certain doctors, things like that. Use common sense. Yes, there is the potential for spirits to become violent. You may even come across a legitimate demonic case. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to have more worries coming from the living than you will the dead. Alright? Now, if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. There is a link in the description of this episode of all the places you can find me on. If you comment on one of the on the platforms that host these episodes, I may not see it in time. So if you get a hold of me through like my public Facebook page, there's a bunch of you that try to get a hold of me through my private page. But my public Facebook page, my Twitter feeds, Instagram, hell, even TikTok if you wanted to. And hell, if there's anything that you want to ask me about, go right ahead. You know, I try not to bite. I'll get to you as soon as I can. I don't mind. I like talking to people. What was I going to say? Anyway, like I said, let's just go with, just use common sense when getting yourself prepared. Because, this can be a lot of fun, but just like with anything else that you do in the world, in fact, just walking out your front door, there's the potential for some danger. And you can't let yourself be paralyzed by fear. You gotta work through it, otherwise you may miss out on some truly amazing opportunities. We're going to take another commercial break real quick, and we're going to get into the actual hunt. Yes, the good stuff. The very, very good stuff. Yes, stick around if I haven't bored you off already. Alright, let's get to the job site. There's a few things you would hopefully have ready and prepared before you got there. Like I said before the break, you need to know the area that you're working in. And that's just a simple matter of fact. You need to know the area, and it also would be wise to keep a set of emergency supplies on hand just in case. Now, I'm not telling you that you should go into every ghost hunt with a freaking hazmat suit on, but you know those annoying face masks that we had to be wearing because of COVID? Well, it might be a good idea that you have a couple of those on nearby. If you can't afford the high-grade gas mask looking things like you see Zach Bacon sometimes wearing. And it isn't just for potential viruses. Even though several parts of lore say it is possible to catch a supernatural related disease, you also got to be more worried about buildings potentially containing asbestos, nasty fungus, spores. In fact, one of the debunking theories out there for paranormal activity states that there might be a good chance that a lot of houses that claim to have paranormal activity have a high concentration of black mold. And to which it might be a good idea if you are operating under a professional image. You might want to gather up some business cards for local cleaners, exterminators, things like that to recommend to the client. Now, I'm only saying that this next bit because I've had a few unfortunate run-ins over the years. If you happen to know any self-defense tactics, you might need to use them. Ladies, this is especially true for you. I honestly hate saying that, but it's an unfortunate reality that's going to take a while before we see any sort of progress. Am I fair in saying that? I think so. But I'm also saying this because, guys, you may have to be on the lookout for potential abusive relationships. There have been a couple of times where I had ghost hunting requests from clients that turned out to later be caused by an abusive marriage. Now, some of you may ask, what do I mean by that? It's like, is it like, husband beats on his wife, then a demon shows up? Is it family members showing up trying to warn the victim? Things like that. Unfortunate. Or is it a case, I should state this real quick. Or is it a case that the victim is become so mentally distraught she is delusional? Well, unfortunately, there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all answer to that. Because I have seen all of those incidents happen. Let me take you through a case real quick. Which, by the way, I want to expand on this a little bit further for next week's episode, discussing the supernatural and mental health a little bit more. I do believe I touched base on this subject a little bit in previous episodes, but being that September is Suicide Prevention Month, I think it's a good time. especially if we have any combat veterans that like to listen into this program. There's something in it that you might be interested in. Something that may help you out. Anyway, let's go to the first time I ever... Let's go give you a couple of case studies. The first time I ever had this happen. A woman reached out to me through some mutual contacts, stating that her home had been experiencing some poltergeist-like activity. She would hear scratches on the walls. Even her little kids, who were, if I remember correctly, they were like 4 and 5 at the time. Really young kids, Even the young kids were saying that they were playing with their grandmother who died before they were even born. So, that was my first clue. A full-on investigation was not needed after meeting with the client and discussing details in which she revealed she was having marital problems. Closer observation, she was trying to cover several bruises with makeup, heavy clothing, things like that. As it would turn out, her husband was having an affair, and unfortunately, in an all too common instance, I know I've talked about this case before, but I try to repeat kind of the Cliff Notes version for any new listeners. The Cliff Notes version of this is that the husband was having an affair in which, an all too common instance, he took his aggressions about the affair, took out his guilt in the form of violent outbursts on his wife. So far, there was no indication that the kids got hurt, other than they accidentally caught a couple of instances where that no kid should ever really be put through. And the activity that in question was in fact psychosomatic to a point. However, Grandma, the client's mother, the children's grandmother, was hanging around and was actually trying to get the abuse to stop in whatever way she could find possible. Those of you who found me through Strange But True Stories, yes, this is the incident where the spirit threw a mug at the guy's face. Needless to say, not long after my intervention, the client finally filed for divorce. Horrible thing to mess up on. The client filed for divorce, got the kids away, and everybody's doing better now. And I'm also saying that case in particular because due to quarantines and people not really taking time to consider everything that's going on, everything that our society actually ignores, due to trying to quarantine everybody in order to slow down the spread of COVID-19. Domestic violence cases are up. Fucking Antifa and BLM protests are also contributing factors. And don't any of you fucking dare try to raise that shit around me. I support the message, but not the movement. Why? Because if y'all are resorting to poisoning animals, setting fires, burning places down, murder, and relying on fucking child molesters to help lead your cause, I cannot support any of that. And if any of you try to come after me, you will be taken care of. Idaho has a stand your ground law. The state of Idaho has stand your ground laws, as well as castle doctrine. If anybody feels that they are if there is a situation where immediate threat to life is present, law enforcement will not press charges. An investigation will be filed to make sure that will be what happened. But if any of you come out to me, my family, or my friends, I will personally deal with you. And know this, you fucking cowards, I don't miss a shot. And this is a situation I want to address because, yes, there is a lot of fucked up things in the world. Those fucked up things in the world, they tend to sometimes lure out even more fucked up things. And those more fucked up things can kill you just by touching you too much. And that's the point of my next episode. It is also something I want to stress highly. If any time during the paranormal event you suspect something is going on, you catch something, abuse, neglect, child molestation, unfortunately this is something I would be ignorant to try to slide over. No, pedophilia is not a sexual orientation. It is a mental illness. It is a disturbing mental illness. I'm willing to give credence to those who try to seek help. Okay? Y'all are in the safe gray area. You don't act upon it. You try to seek help to get yourself the help you need. Alright. We'll let that slide. But those of you who attack children for your own selfish purposes, eat a bullet. But unless there's an immediate threat to life, be sure to protect yourselves. If it's a situation you do not think that your intervention will be able to help, and it is clear that there's an immediate threat to life, immediate danger, call the police. Yes, there's dirtbag cops out there. There's dirtbags in every demographic, so let's stop trying to focus on this us versus them dynamic, okay? There's dirtbags everywhere. There's slime balls everywhere. Look at the freaking Epstein situation. These freaking sex traffickers are high businessmen, janitors, cops, doctors, police commissioners, firemen. These are people who are in positions of trust. Even freaking retail managers. These sickos are everywhere. And I'm not saying that to try to steer anybody away from going out and exploring the world, because the world is truly a beautiful place. There's a lot of bad, but there's a whole lot of other good. But if you're going to go out and engage the world, a certain amount of caution is wise. But don't let it inhibit you. But don't also be ignorant and let something happen. There's freaking child protective service workers who try to completely kibosh the kids that they're supposed to help. And yeah, there's sickos in elected office right now. And the feds are trying to work on closing in on them. But unfortunately, there are too many. They are too smart. And because of their positions in power, the ones we catch are usually the ones too stupid not to cover their tracks. And if you go out into the world, especially in a situation like this, you have pretty good chances of running into something nasty. Also, while you're on the hunt, which also kind of leads me to my next point, drug use. Now, my personal philosophy in this, being that my reputation, my entire business dynamic, I guess you could call it, was built around the idea of seeing and communicating with the dead. Dealing with things that technically aren't supposed to exist. dealing with things that I know make me sound like a frickin' lunatic. A good philosophy that I try to pass along to those I work with, to kids that maybe watch these programs, things like that. Good philosophy is that people already think I'm crazy, so why give them a reason? Now, personally, I hate drugs, even if it's for medicinal reasons. I hate pills. I hate feeling like I have to take medicine. I hate feeling like my life is dependent on drugs. If I'm sick or there's something legitimately going wrong, then yeah, do what you need to do. If you have a legitimate reason for something, and not just faking pains just to suck on weed, then do what you gotta do. I'm not kiboshing you on that. I'm kiboshing the fact that we do have an opioid crisis, we do have a drug use crisis, and we also have a number of people who are complete scumbags who try to utilize mental health professionals by spreading lies that certain individuals have mental illness in order to cover up their crimes. We have mothers who will try to tell everyone that they're suicidal teenagers, and yes, this is directed right onto somebody who, let's just say it's best that I stay away from for a while. We have individuals out there, so-called mothers, who will claim that their children have bipolar disorder in order to cover up the fact that their mother allows for an abusive prick to live in the house. We have fathers who take advantage of their daughters. This mess is everywhere. And sometimes people need legitimate help. So, all that being said, drugs as well as your own mental background. This is where having a pretty high sense of awareness, self-awareness, is crucial. Say, I'm going to use myself here as an example. I've talked about some of the things in my past before. So those of you who have followed my programs here for a while know that there's a dark side behind everything that's going on. Everything that I do. For me, I don't regularly take medications, except for occasional allergy occasional allergy pills, because I have my day job. Seems like half the people freaking smoke, and I'm allergic to cigarettes. Nothing severe, so no, don't worry about that. If I'm working a case, I have to keep myself in check if I sense that there's any abuse going on, especially if I know kids are being caught in the crossfire. In today's terminology, I hate sounding like a bunch of these people that try to scream, that try to use mental health labels in order to have security blankets on them at all times. Yeah, I'm not trying to slam anybody down, but some cases I have to wonder. But anyway, for me, if I catch anybody getting abusive, especially if I know the history, especially if I know kids aren't involved, I have to personally keep myself in check, because I cannot guarantee that I will not be breaking bones if I tear into somebody. And that's something I acknowledge. I acknowledge that Things like that are a bit of triggers for me. And if I go into a case where that's prevalent, I really have to hold myself back unless I catch action getting ready to start, then Hulk smash. Now, this is where being aware of your own mental state when you take certain drugs. How do these things make you feel? If you're someone who has issues with mental health and you have not yet found a good cocktail, I should say, you and your licensed physician have not found a good mix of meds for you, acknowledge how you are with and without those meds. So honestly, if there's certain things you tend to have violent tendencies, hair triggers, I tend to be overly sensitive about certain things because there are just assholes who will try to tear into you. That this may not be their thing for you. No alcohol on the job. Just no. Even if y'all decide to have a designated driver, Gatorades, waters, even sodas, things like that, yeah, that's okay. But a general rule of thumb, no drinking. Especially if you need to be driving. If you're going to be ghost hunting, we don't need to be adding any more ghosts. Got it? Okay. And also, those of you who have any background history in retail, this may apply to you a little bit easier than others. Learn how to turn off assholes. Sometimes you gotta deal with a retail piece. Because there's some people in this world who, for some reason or another, feel the need to tear other people down in order to build themselves up. When yet they don't realize, when you go to tear others down in order to try to build yourself up, the pieces you are utilizing will likely crumble further. And if you have a situation where you know your mindset may not be the best, where it usually is, and I'm not saying, you have issues with depression, anxiety, things like that. No. Let's brush those off for a second. Let's just say you're the type of person who's usually in a good mood, but you just lost a friend to cancer. Did I talk about that in my last episode? I think I recorded it before it happened. Like, for me, for example, not a lot of people know this, but the actor Chadwick Boseman and I, we were business partners. I didn't know him very well, but based on the interactions I've had, he reminded me a lot of my late grandfather, especially with how he died. So, like, now for example, if you recently lost someone, and, maybe you're a little emotional at the moment, that's okay. That's fine. You take your time to heal. And if you're the type of person, I'll admit, I'm that way. If you're the type of person that prefers to get right back to work in order to deal with your emotions, because, well, let's face it, nothing that happens to us will cause the world to stand still. No matter the type of influence you've had on people, no matter the number of lives you saved, none of that. And it's not, this is an argument I had with an ex, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. But sometimes if you're in a space where you tend to create, or you have some place where you know you can channel your emotions into your work in order to make that more productive, then yeah, use it. If you're the type that likes to joke around about certain things, go ahead, you do what you need to do. But make sure you find some sort of healthy release. And no matter how tragic the situation may be, don't take it out on others. Because everybody's got dead people behind them. And no matter what you do your best to avoid situations where you try to cut yourself off from others. Where others try to be empathetic towards your situation. Acknowledge that they're just trying to help. Sometimes it may not be the best way, but they're doing what they can. Stop trying to isolate yourself. Especially if you're going to be taking on jobs like this where you go to try to help other people. Because humans, from the get-go, have always been social creatures. Our survival has always been relying on one another. And you may be in a spot where you feel like you don't have anybody. That's okay. It sucks, but that's okay. That's why my messages are always open to anybody who needs them. Or if you have a paranormal situation and you need some advice, yeah, I'll hear you out, see what I can do to help you. But one thing I would want a lot of people to try to think is that when you go to try to help people, if you go on these hunts and you know you're a little emotional, you gotta be careful, because sometimes the fact that you're under those emotions can distort your perception of things. And that's not just talking about dealing with, possible EVP recordings or things like that. You may start to see things that you wish you could see. And it's a little hard, not impossible, but trust me, it's a little difficult to try to get the dead guy's voices you're hearing inside your head on camera. It's not impossible. But it's still hard to do. So I guess what I'm trying to say with all this is make sure you're in the best possible space you can when you do these things. Because sometimes you may lure out something. And if you want to take a special, necklace, maybe keep a little bit of sage with you, you do that. You do what it takes to make you feel safe in this. But don't try to hurt others in the process. Otherwise, you may be stepping on the toes of someone who may be able to change your life one day. Now, also while you're on the hunt, packing snacks is always a good thing. It might help you stay awake. And I believe that's actually all the time we have for today. Tune in next week on September 18th. We're going to go into dealing with supernatural and mental health, how these things tend to correlate. And I want to announce something. Some of you may know that I am involved in several businesses. I invested through which is basic programs that are essentially like the show's Shark Tank, except for poor people. And I do have access to something that some of you may find quite helpful. I'm going to share more details on that, as well as a few other things next week. If you like this show, be sure to give a like, subscribe, follow on whatever platform you're listening to this on. If you are listening through YouTube or Anchor or Spreaker or whatever, check the episode description for links on how to find me on social media, as well as get some cool merchandise, fun places to follow me. Recently joined TikTok, and there's a lot of goofy videos on me on there, so if you're in a situation where, hey, maybe I want to talk about what's going on in your life, but you need kind of a mood booster, hop on there. Maybe I got something that'll help you. For everyone else, visit me at www.dakotafrandsen.com. That is DAKOTAFRANDSEN.com. You can find all the links on that, other projects I'm involved in, and so much more. The website is currently under maintenance, so it might look a little funky here and there, but trust me, we got some good stuff coming. My name is Dakota Frandsen. I am the Specialist of the Strange. Be kind to one another, and I'll see you next time.